Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your boy, Pigskin Pete. Happy Monday to everybody. Man, hopefully I can get this walk and talk in today. The weather is terrible. It's been raining. It looks like there's going to be a little bit of a break in the rain, hopefully long enough for me to make this unwatchable video. According to Carolina Jackpot, he said of my walk and talk videos, yeah, Pete's out there doing walk and talk videos just for views, as opposed to the videos that Carolina Jackpot makes that he does not want people to view. That's the difference between, I do want people to view mine. He could care less if you view his or not. Shout out to you, Carolina Jackpot. Anyway, what was I going to talk about today? Oh, if you're new here, this is Walk and Talk with Pete, where I do just that. I walk and I talk. And hopefully you listen, and hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button and leave a comment below. Anyway, today's subject matter is something that I used to talk about ad nauseum. Believe me, the reason I know it was ad nauseum is because people told me to stop talking about it because it was nauseating. And that's what ad nauseum means. It means it's nauseating. Which wouldn't be the first and probably won't be the last time anybody ever tells me that I'm nauseating. But anyway, I used to talk about this subject a lot. And the subject is the need or the lack thereof for divisions in college football in 2021. In my opinion, there are zero good reasons, or let's put it this way. There's zero reasons that exist that make it completely necessary to have divisions in college football. The whole idea was that the conferences kept expanding and expanding. You know, they went from 8 teams to 10 teams, from 10 teams to 12 teams, from 12 teams to 14 teams, and we're seeing this continue on in present day. We're eventually going to have, who knows how many, 16, 18, 20 teams in a single conference. So they say, well, the only way to make this work or to make it easier or whatever is to break it up into divisions, sort of like they do in the NFL, right? Okay, so the NFL, 2 conferences, 4 divisions in each conference. Now, the reason that works just fine in the NFL, first of all, there's only 32 teams in the NFL. Second of all, there's only 4 teams in each division. College football, completely different. If you have 14 teams, this is simple math here, that means you have 7 teams in a division. Well, why does that matter, Pete? Well, the reason it matters is because not all divisions, just like not all conferences, are created equal. You see it every single year. There's usually, in every Power 5 conference anyway, there's usually a much more dominant division. In the Big Ten, it's the Big Ten East. In the ACC, typically it's been the ACC Atlantic until this year because Clemson's fallen off the map. You go down the list, the SEC West is particularly much tougher than the SEC East, and so on and so forth. Of course, the Big 12 only has 10 teams, so they don't have divisions anyway, and we'll get to that in a minute because I believe that they have it right, and I already know, okay? Every time I bring up the Big 12, they go, well, they gotta do it that way, Pete. They don't have a choice but to do it that way, Pete. They've only got 10 teams. They can have divisions. No shit. You don't need divisions whether you got 10 teams, 12 teams, 15 teams, or 50 teams. You don't need it. So stop telling me that the Big 12 only does it that way because they don't have any other choice. But guess who does have the choice? Every other conference has a choice whether or not to have divisions. It's very, very simple. This is not calculus or astrophysics. You can keep your in-state rival or whoever it is that you played for the past 120 years on rivalry week, keep that game on the schedule. If you have another team, or maybe even 2, inside your own conference that you play every year and you consider them to be a rival, keep them on your schedule too. You can still make that work. The rest of the games, the rest of the teams in the conference, whether you play 8 conference games or 9 conference games or whatever it is that your conference plays, which I think if they did eliminate divisions, they should just make it universal across all conferences, that everybody has 9 conference games, or they can agree to play 8 conference games. Whatever they want to do, they all should be playing the same amount of conference games. Once you've solidified how many conference games you're playing and which traditional rivals you're going to play every year, the rest of your conference schedule just rotates. The fact that Clemson only plays Miami like once every 8 years, unless it's in a championship game, is stupid. The fact that Georgia only plays Alabama like once every 8 or 10 years, unless it's in a championship game, is stupid and it's pointless. You take the two best teams from the conference with the best record and the best conference record, just like the Big 12 does, and put them in a championship game together. It's really the only way to crown an actual honest champion. I know the Big 12 likes to run around going, you know, ever since they started playing these championship games a few years ago, oh, the one true champion. But they've got a point, okay? I mean, having a 5-loss team play in a conference championship like what happened between Clemson and Pitt a few years ago is ridiculous. Let's say Pitt just has a great day that year and Clemson goes out there and lays an egg. Then you have a 5-loss ACC champion. The whole idea of championship games is to actually find who's the best and most deserving champion of the conference. And with divisions, that is not 100% possible. Now, that doesn't mean that you never get the best team win the conference. But I'd say it's about 50-50. 50% of the time, there's a team playing in a conference championship that really didn't deserve to be there. They're not the second best team in the conference. Now, typically, Clemson is a great example of this in the ACC, but since that's not the case this year, looks like we're probably going to have the two best teams from the ACC will be Wake Forest and Pitt, which are from opposite divisions, so that'll end up working itself out. But most years it's Clemson and everybody else, and they should be playing, you know, a different team, possibly even one from the Atlantic Division and not from the Coastal Division on any given year. The best example of that this year is indeed the Big Ten. The two best teams, probably the three best teams in the Big Ten, reside in the Big Ten East. There should not be a team from the West, most likely, unless Iowa wins out. There should not be a team in the West representing the Big Ten in the title game. There should be two East teams. One argument that I hear that really annoys me is when they go, oh, well, then you have to have a rematch sometimes, Pete. Like, let's take the Big Ten, for example. Let's say Michigan and Ohio State turn out to be the two best teams in the Big Ten. Let's say Ohio State beats Michigan. They both finish the season with one loss. They both have the two best records in the Big Ten. Wouldn't it be fun to see a rematch between Ohio State and Michigan in the conference championship game? I think it would be. Fans who push back on this the most are almost 100% of the time one of two things. Either an SEC fan or in particular an Alabama fan. Alabama thinks everybody's their rival, right? So the non-division thing in the SEC, they really don't like that idea because they go, well, we got to play Auburn every year. Okay, all right, well, all right, you can still play Auburn every year even if you don't have divisions. All right, well, we got to play LSU every year. All right, well, you can still play LSU every year, even if you don't have divisions. Oh, we got to play Tennessee every year. So, and then they just go down basically every other team in the SEC that they play every year and go, we got to play them every year because we're Alabama and it's tradition. No, sorry, unfactual and stupid, and you'll get used to it. All right, pick one of those teams. You don't have to play Texas A&M every year. Okay, you don't have to play Arkansas every year. I mean, I can just go down the list of teams that you don't need to be playing every year. And believe me, if you stop playing them, you'll get over it real quick. The only two teams in the SEC that I think that Alabama should absolutely play every year because of tradition is Tennessee and Auburn. LSU, you can play them every 3 years. It'll be just fine, okay? All right, guys, well, it's starting to thunder, and I think I've got about 5 minutes to get shelter before I get dumped on here. So I'm gonna have to cut this short, but thanks for walking with me. What did we learn today? We learned there's no need for divisions in college football, and I actually think that eliminating divisions will make the sport more compelling, especially in championship season. All right, guys, have a good day. Your boy, Pigskin Pete, check it out.